Namaskar and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We're having this special webinar, Krishna, Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata according to Tantra by Dada Ranjitananda, who by now many of you probably already know. He's given so many webinars in our online spiritual lifestyle training. He's one of our teachers in our community. So welcome once again. If you would like to ask a question at any point, for now, please go ahead and put it into the chat and Dada will answer the questions as he goes through. And now I want to invite Dada to go ahead and join us. Namaskar, Dada.
Namaskar.
Thank you again for being here with us today.
Okay. So shall we start?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so welcome everybody. The topic is on Krishna, but I will go over Krishna in relation to the Bhagavad Gita and to the Mahabharata. And that will be an interpretation according to Tantra. You know, there are so many interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Mahabharata, and also the life of Krishna. So I will go towards the Tantric interpretation, and it's based on the teachings of Sri Anandamurti. Okay, so let's go. So welcome everybody. And this will be like the part one, and then we'll have part two next time. In this part one, I will go through a brief summary of the Bhagavad Gita story, and then a brief summary of the Mahabharata story, and then I go a little bit on the interpretation. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is a part of this Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita is kind of the spiritual scripture that is more famous, and we hear about it all the time. And what it happens within this great epic that is called the Mahabharata. The lead character in the whole Mahabharata is Krishna. And he speaks in the Bhagavad Gita, he is speaking in first hand, and he is explaining his philosophy. Now, there are so many comments, and people will interpret it in different ways. Briefly about the Mahabharata. It's the longest epic poem. It has like 100,000 shlokas. What's a shloka? It's like a verse. A verse in Sanskrit. Usually it has a deep spiritual meaning. So the Mahabharata is 100,000 of these verses in Sanskrit. We are not going to cover everything. I mean, we are going to see only a few main ones. And it's divided into 18 books. I mean, it's a huge thing. And the sixth book includes the Bhagavad Gita. A few chapters, it's like chapter 25 to 42. That's the Bhagavad Gita. So it is just a little part inside this huge epic poem. The name of the scripture, like the full name, is Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Simple translation in English, the Song of the Divine. It is the Gita, means the song of Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the supreme being, the cosmic being. The definition it goes like this in Sanskrit. Ya Bhagavata Gita Sa Gita. It means that which has been sung by Bhagavan is Gita. So we are going to see what's Bhagavan. So Krishna is Bhagavan. He's saying the Bhagavad Gita. So his expression is the Gita. The word Gita is like a song. So this is like the song of Bhagavat, which is the supreme being, the cosmic being. So that's his song. That's this Bhagavad Gita. Now, since you haven't asked any questions so far, then I will ask you a question. And that's the question. I want just to know, how familiar are you with Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Mahabharata? So I'll give you a few moments to give your answers. Okay, still you can click there, but what I see here is that 33% or 29% of you have heard something, but you don't know much, which is okay. No, that's the whole idea of the presentation. Others, I know about Krishna, not the Mahabharata. A few of you, I know about Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. And one of you is very familiar with all of it. Great. Okay. Let's end this. And let me show you the results so you can see what were the votes, where we stand. All right. So that is a pause, and I stop now and continue. So keep in mind that I have the chat window open in front of me, also the question and answers. If you want to put some questions, comments during the presentation, you can go ahead. Sometimes if I see a question and I see it is related to what I'm talking, then I can answer it. Okay, there is a question here about Krishna's view on the role of women in society, also any evidence of him as a historical figure. Okay, let's see if it gets answered in the course of the presentation, or otherwise I come back to it, okay? So it's the Bhagavad Gita, the song of Bhagavan. So now we have to understand what's Bhagavan. It means the owner of Bhaga. So that just makes us need to know what is Bhaga. So, so what is Bhaga? It's a definition in Sanskrit. What it means? It's a collection of 6 attributes, 6 characteristics. In Sanskrit, Aishvarya, Virya, Yasha, Shri, Gyan, Vairagya. So we are like opening the like this, opening the Pandora box. Now one definition brings new words, which brings new words. So we started with Bhagavan, and we said Bhagavan is the owner of Bhaga. So now we need to know what is Bhaga, and Bhaga are 6 characteristics or 6 attributes. Let's look at them. First one, Aishvarya, occult powers. There are 8 occult powers according to philosophy. We may come to them later on. So let's say one occult power is to know everything, or one occult power is to become so small then can penetrate the smallest structure and know it. Another one to become so big that can encompass everything and know about everything. So these are the occult powers. So there are 8. So Bhagavan should have those occult powers. Then Virya, stamina, tremendous stamina. Then Yasha, reputation. Bhagavan will have a reputation. And this reputation can be good and bad in the sense that for the, let's say, I will use the word moralists. For the moralists, it will be great. But for the immoral people, terrible. So it's kind of polarizing. It has Shri, charm. Charm means it can attract. Krishna, in fact, the word Krishna means one who attracts. So he attracted so many people to him. So very attractive personality. Gyan. Gyan means knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Bhagavan should have spiritual knowledge, should know about or should know the whole spiritual philosophy. And the Gita is actually the expression of the philosophy. So Gyan. Vairagya means renunciation or non-attachment. We may come back to this. It's an important concept, and its interpretation of spiritual concepts is very important. Different words, there are different words in Sanskrit like this, Vairagya, and they are interpreted in a certain way. So our interpretation of Vairagya is a kind of renunciation, not to give up everything, but to use everything in the proper way. Means you can only use things in a proper way if you are not attached to that. I just give an example. A mother will love her, let's say, son. A mother will love the son. That's good. But suppose that mother directs the love in a direction of being attached to the son, so she doesn't want her son to go out, to mix with other people. She always protecting. At that point, that attachment is not good. It is good, the love is good, but love has to be expressed also correctly. It has to be expressed in a nice way. So this proper utilization of every object, that's more close to the point of Vairagya. It means you are not attached to an object that you don't utilize it in the proper way. Anyway, we'll come back to these concepts. Now the Gita. So we have Bhagavan, the owner of Bhaga, 6 attributes. Now we come to the Gita. The Gita is the expression of Bhagavan. Now Bhagavan is going to express. It will, what Bhagavan is expressing? It's expressing to the human beings. For what? Because Bhagavan is calling the human beings. The Supreme Being attracts the human beings, the unit beings. So the Gita is the call to attract, come. And this is the way you should come. So the Gita is that call, that clarion call of the Supreme to the human beings. You can come to me in this way. So what's the spirit? What's the spirit of the Gita? We human beings need to move forward towards our spiritual goal. We are living in this present life. Maybe we have 100 years. So what do we have to do in these 100 years? Yes, we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to have a house, we have to maintain a certain way of life. Yes, we have to do that. But what is the goal? The goal is to move towards the Supreme. So now we have 100 years that we are going to move towards the Supreme. And in these 100 years, we have to maintain a balance between our inner movement towards the goal and our outer life. Since we are living in a certain society, in a certain country, with other people, now we have to keep the balance with that. And then inside we are moving towards the Supreme. So this balance is very important. And this is embedded in the Gita, this idea that one has to maintain this balance. You know, there are different spiritual scriptures that will say that the world is an illusion, but that's not the spirit here. We are living in the world, everything is happening to us in the world. How can we say it's an illusion? We can say it is not something permanent, it's something ever changing, something relative, but it's not an illusion. Teachings of Krishna, how to move towards the Supreme, maintain a balance with our life in the world. And there is a constant battle. It's a fight. Means we are fighting against so many attractions that, let's say, we may think about something spiritual, but then we think, no, this is too abstract. The real life is here. And what are the values? You grow up, you go to kindergarten, first grade, second, university, master, PhD, then you are just studying the world. This is what exists. This is the real thing. So we are in a constant battle between our spiritual aspirations and the material goals of life. Now, even now, we have to stay home, and we are thinking, oh, we are losing so many things that we could be doing. But our inner treasure is still with us in whatever situation we are. Okay. So the Mahabharata is basically the most epic poem and the most important in India. What is the story? It describes a war. There was a war between the Pandava brothers against the Kaurava brothers. So it's a group of brothers fighting their cousins, another group of brothers. So it's a kind of a family fight. In the epic itself, it describes the events that preceded the war. The Pandava brothers were very much humiliated by their cousins. And their cousins didn't, took everything from them, didn't share anything with them. And that was kind of the root cause of the war. So many events preceded the war. And even the great people of those days, they came to a situation that they had to choose which side of the war they will go. So there is all this description about the effort of Krishna to avoid the war by proposing different things like mediating, but it was not possible. Basically, greed and all these factors weighed in, and the Kauravas didn't want to give up what they took by force. So now when the war was imminent, it was about to come, both sides were looking for allies. So they went to these various great personalities, inviting them to join their camp. And by one reason or another, they were choosing which camp to go. And then the poem goes on describing the battles and who are the different generals take over and how they die. And so all these great personalities go on dying one by one. And in the beginning of the war, they have some rules, like they fight until a certain time. They cannot kill a person in a certain way. In the evening, the fight stops. They can even mix together the different sides. And then in the daytime, they start fighting again. So in the beginning, they are following all these rules. But as the thing goes on, everything gets forgotten, and it goes to a wild situation. Now, one thing is that the different actions, the different things that happen, one can always take some deeper meaning out of it. I will go now in a few details. So in this quest for allies, what happens is that the main brother on the Kaurava side, his name is Duryodhan. He was like the main Kaurava. And on the Pandava side was Arjuna. Both of them went to take help from Krishna. When they arrived, Duryodhana arrived first. And when he arrived, Krishna was lying down as if he were sleeping. Duryodhana came and he sat down near the head of Krishna. Then Arjuna arrived. And when Arjuna arrived, he went by the feet of Krishna. At that point, Krishna opened the eyes and he sees Arjuna. And he kind of says, "Oh, Arjuna, you are here, welcome," like that. And then after he looks and sees Duryodhana. And so they want Krishna to join their side. So what Krishna says that, okay, I will give a choice. I can offer my army, all the weapons and everything on one side, and they will fight for you. And on the other side, I can offer myself, Krishna, but I will not fight. I will not take direct part in the battle. And he gave the first choice to Arjuna because he saw Arjuna first. So Arjuna chose Krishna. And Duryodhana was very happy because he thought, oh, this Arjuna is a fool. He's choosing Krishna. Krishna is not going to fight. So now I will take the whole army and all the weapons. So both were happy. So this is kind of a scene, but what's the spiritual teaching here? It shows us how to approach a great spiritual master. So Krishna was this great spiritual master, and Arjuna came to his feet. It says that a great guru, the feet of the guru are very important. It is, so if you kind of position yourself in that way, you are receiving the grace of that spiritual master. So that was one part. The other thing is, what do you want? You want all the possessions, all the material things, or you want the spiritual thing? So at that point, Arjuna, he didn't care for all the material stuff, which is all the army, all the weapons, everything. He wanted Krishna. Okay, so so that was a choice. And if we analyze this in our life, it's always a choice. What comes first? Does spirituality come first, or does the material world come first? It's always a question. We will always have that situation where we have to choose. So Krishna did not fight in the Mahabharata, but he was the charioteer of Arjuna. You know, they had these chariots, and so the horses and the person driving it, that was the charioteer, and then the fighter, which will use in Arjuna's case, he had the bow and arrow, that was his main weapon. So Krishna was the charioteer, so he was driving Arjuna's chariot. Now, the battlefield. So this war is going to happen somewhere. That is defined in the first shloka, the first verse. So the first verse was uttered by the king. So now let me go on adding some personalities. So we have already Krishna, we have Arjuna, which is the main Pandava, we have Duryodhana, which is the main Kaurava. Now comes to the king. The king was the father of the Kauravas. The brother of the king was the father of the Pandavas. He was the king before, but he died. Therefore, his brother took over. And then the king was not impartial to the two families. He was more partial to his family. Therefore, was one of the causes. Now, this king was blind. His name was Dhritarashtra. So Dhritarashtra was the king was blind. We're going to see all this meaning of these personalities. So the first shloka is like, Dhritarashtra said, Dhritarashtra uvacha. So what did he say? Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, samaveta yuyu sabha. Mamaka Pandavash Choiva Kima Kurvata Sanjaya. So now I will introduce another character. Maybe you take notes of the different characters to understand the whole thing. So that was Krishna, okay, the main character, Duryodhana, the main Kaurava, Arjuna, the main Pandava, Dhritarashtra, the king. Next character, Sanjay. Sanjay was the advisor of the king. So now the king is asking to Sanjay, because the king was blind, so he's asking to Sanjay, Sanjay, my party, means the Kauravas, and the Pandavas, they are now in this battlefield. So what's going on? Okay, let me see what. All right, so here is in English. Oh Sanjay, now that my children and the children of Pandu, mean Pandavas, they have gathered on the battlefield of Dharmakshetra or Kurukshetra, they are eager to fight. So what's going on? And let's give an interpretation to it. Where is this fight happening? We can say, okay, historically, they say, oh, this fight happened in the Kurukshetra, was the field of Kurukshetra, there was the battle. The shloka is saying the Dharmakshetra and Kurukshetra. This war is happening in us, in each one of us. So this, the Dharmakshetra means the field where the war for Dharma is happening. This Kurukshetra is our own structure, human being. So this war is happening within us. Okay, so that is, let's say that this epic is describing some battle that happened and there were these people fighting, but actually the whole thing is representing the fight within us. So where is this fight for Dharma happening? What is Dharma? Dharma is the essence of a human being. And our essence is to search for the realization. So we are fighting for this Dharma. So where is the fight happening? In us, in ourselves. Is a fight of Dharma, means that divine aspiration, against adharma, that material attraction. I remind that it's not that we have to ignore the material world. We have to live in the material world. We have to do everything right in the material world, but it's not the goal. You know, the goal, we shouldn't put like our whole energy to accumulate material stuff, because it's not going to have value. So the real thing is the spirituality. So this fight happening within us all the time. Now we are reading about the Mahabharata. It happened, let's say, 3,500 years ago. There was this war. Oh, very interesting. But the concept here is that it's happening now with us today. And in that war, there were the brothers, Pandava, they were 5. And there were the Kaurava brothers, 100. Now we may find, well, it's strange, 5 against 100. What is the representation here? We come to concepts of yoga. So in yoga, we have the chakras. And what are the chakras? We can say the chakras are centers of psychic centers or subtle centers or substations of the mind, you know. So we can define chakra in different way. In yoga, chakras play a very important role. There are many practices based on the chakras, and that helps to control the structure. So those are substations that help to control our human entity. There are 7 main chakras in yoga philosophy. So if you read about chakras, usually there will be, okay, these are the 7 chakras, like that. And they are situated along the spine. Then the chakras are related to certain fundamental factors. There are 5 fundamental factors, according to philosophy: the solid, liquid, luminous or fire, air, ether. These 5, everything in this universe we live is made of a combination of these 5 factors. These 5 factors are also related to the chakras. Each chakra will control one of the fundamental factors. The first chakra at the base of the spine controls the solid. Second chakra, by the height of the genitals, controls the liquid. Third, by the height of the navel point, controls luminous. Fourth, by the chest, midpoint of the chest, it controls the air. And the number 5, by the throat, it controls ether. So there are 5 fundamental factors controlled by the 5 chakras. Plus, chakras control also mental tendencies or mental propensities. So let me ask you one question that you can answer using the chat window. One propensity of the mind or one tendency of the mind is fear. Everybody fears. Some people fear less, some people fear more. So you have more fear or less fear, but everybody has a little bit of fear within. Okay, so we have fear. Look at your body and let me know what part of the body you think is related to fear. Let's say, what point in our body would control fear? What would you say? Right there in the chat window, okay? I give you a few moments. So just think about your body, kind of scan it like that and think, okay, I have a lot of fear, so where do I feel it the most? So I have one answer. Anybody else? Okay. So I have 2 answers now. Okay, I have 3, which are all different. So we'll analyze all the answers. Okay, let's start from the 3 answers that I have now. They are belly, mind, nerves. Let's start, and okay, somebody else also wrote tummy. Okay, so I have 3 different answers, okay? I start from nerves. Okay, we can say, okay, I got nervous and this and that. My nerves are not strong like that. The nerves, they are not like the controlling thing. The nerves, and they are not the controlling point. They are like the transmitters. They are like the kind of the conduit. So it's not like the nerves, we can't say it's the controlling point, but it's the conduit, okay? Next, mind. The mind is, okay, the whole human structure is basically controlled by the mind. But the mind is like the headquarters or the main station, okay? Like you have the main station somewhere, but you have substations. The substations are directly connected, and then each substation is connected to the mind. So in the end, you say, yes, mind controls everything, but I'm looking here for the substation. So this, okay, somebody else said chest, but I will say that it's the belly. It's the navel area that controls the fear. And even there are popular sayings that, okay, if people feel so much fear, what do they do? Sometimes they cannot control their bowels, no? So let's say that fear is actually related or controlled by the navel area. So in the navel area is one of the chakras. And that chakra, one of the things that it controls is fear. Fear is one of the propensities. If we study yoga philosophy, we'll see that there are 50 propensities. And these 50 propensities have two ways of expressing, inside and outside. So that kind of multiply them by 2, making it 100. So now we come to the Mahabharata. There are 5 brothers, Pandava. There are 100 brothers, Kaurava. They represent, the 5 brothers represent the chakras. The 100 represent the propensities. And they are fighting. There is a big fight between the controlling points, which are the chakras, against the propensities. And that battle is happening in each one of us all the time. We are fighting all these propensities. Suppose I have to talk in public. Now I'm going to give a talk in the public and I feel shy. I can't do it. Shyness is one of those propensities. So I have to fight it. No, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to win over this. And I go ahead. Or I can say, no, I can't do it. No, I'm not gonna do it. And I refuse. So this fight is happening all the time. So that's the fight within the human structure. So we have to strengthen the chakras. Many of the practices of yoga, including asanas, strengthen the chakras. So there are more advanced practices to strengthen the chakras. So these chakras can control the propensities and not be controlled by the propensities. So either the propensities will dominate or the chakras will dominate. So that war is going on. So now we have positioned the Pandavas, we have positioned the Kauravas. Now, what about the king, the Dhritarashtra, the blind man? He represents the mind. the mind is blind. It means that same mind can take me towards realization, can make me a great person. That same mind can create so much trouble to me, make me a terrible person. The same mind. So now who guides the mind? Conscience, discrimination. That is the advisor of the mind, Sanjay, the advisor of the king. So Dhritarashtra, the king, the blind king is the mind. Sanjay, the advisor. So the mind is always asking Sanjay, Sanjay, what's going on? What should I do? But the mind not always listens to the conscience. So now we have Pandavas, we have Kauravas, we have Dhritarashtra, we have Sanjay. What about Krishna? Now Krishna, let's say if the mind, the five chakras, okay, mind, then we have Krishna is the last chakra, the seventh chakra, Sahasrara chakra. Krishna is like the supreme being. And if Sanjay, which is the conscience, if the conscience will listen or connect with the supreme being, then it will guide the structure in the proper way. But if that is guided by the propensities, if the propensities are dominating, then we'll go in a different direction. So that's a little bit kind of putting the characters, the main characters, in perspective of Tantra. Because what is Tantra? Tan means expansion, Tra means liberation. It's the science that liberates us through expansion. It is looking at how human beings can reach the highest goal. And a lot of the teachings of Tantra are symbolic. Even in the Mahabharata, that's kind of, it has a symbology, the chakras, the propensities, the mind, the supreme consciousness, how it is interacting, how it is working, what war is going on. Okay. So now let's see the human structure. So we have 7 main chakras, 50 propensities. Expression is internal or external, 2 times 50, 100. We have Dhritarashtra, the blind king, represents the mind. Mind is blind. Mind cannot see without conscience. Sanjay is the conscience. Krishna, supreme consciousness. So we have the seat of consciousness of a human being, and then the seat of supreme consciousness. So we have to elevate from unit to cosmic. So Krishna is supreme consciousness. He is guiding us, but he's not taking directly part in the battle. Means the supreme consciousness is guiding everything, but apparently it's not active. We are doing everything, but really, if we are taking that supreme guidance, then we are doing the things towards realization. Okay. Now the Gita. Let's position it also. The war is going on. And so in the middle of that war, Krishna teaches Arjuna the spiritual science, the fundamentals of yoga. and that is the Gita. So we are learning, we are in the middle of the war, now we are going to learn the spiritual science. So that's the situation. So that the same thing is described there is happening. So the Mahabharata is much more than a poem. The Gita, especially, are profound spiritual teachings. And these two presentations we are having, actually, previously I gave this same course, I gave 10 presentations. So this time we will only go 2, so it will be not, how to say, will not cover everything. But the goal is to give the tantric perspective, to present it in terms of yoga. Because, okay, there are many places you can read nice and you see it happened this, it happened that. But when you see it, when you understand the symbology behind it, then you can see it in a different way, you know? And usually spiritual books are a little bit like that, especially the deeper ones. Krishna actually was a tantric master or a tantric teacher, tantric guru. And the Bhagavad Gita is a tantric text, but it's presented in a certain way that you need a perspective to really understand it. All right, so let's see. I go a little bit more. I will jump this part. I will go for a summary, okay? And then you can ask some questions. Some questions, if I don't answer today, is because it will be also part of next presentation, okay? So the summary. Bhagavad Gita. Gita is the song. Bhagavan, song of Bhagavan. Okay, so now we have Bhagavan. So who is Bhagavan? Bhagavan is one who has bhaga. So what is bhaga? Some characteristics, some attributes. Will have the spiritual powers, occult powers. You know, we have a tendency to analyze spiritual elevation by powers, but only Bhagavan has full control of the powers, but Bhagavan will use it minimum. He will not make a show of the powers. So let's say it will be used not for show, not for attracting people, but for changing the society. One of the things of Krishna, when Krishna came, the society was very much divided. So he kind of united Mahabharata. Bharata was like India was called Bharata, but India included also a few countries outside India. So all that area was called the Bharata. And Krishna wanted to unite it, to make it like a big country, to put it together. So that was the Mahabharata. So that war kind of happened to bring people together. And so that was one historical thing that happened, means it was bringing the people together. At the same time, it was a way to establish Dharma, to establish the rule of, let's say, welfare, of spiritual aspiration, spiritual realization. Of course, we know that so many years passed and all that got a little bit lost. So now we have to revive it again. So the idea is that Dharma comes and then it kind of wanes away and it reaches its lowest point. Then again, Bhagavan will raise it again, and then again it will go. So there are cycles. So the Bhagavad Gita was the song of Bhagavan, his teaching how to reach spiritual elevation. The fight, so there are all these symbols, the 5 brothers, 5 chakras against 100 brothers, 100 propensities, Dharma against Adharma, and the idea that it's not something that happened 3,500 years ago, it's something that's happening today. Means it's very actual. If by studying it, reading it, you apply it today in your own life, what's happening within us and even what's happening in the society. So things have some connections. All right, so that's what I wanted to present. It was more like a talk. Next time, maybe I can try to stimulate you a little bit more. But do you have questions you want to put now? I see some questions here in the beginning about the role of women like this. Maybe I will address it next time. And evidence of him as a historical figure. This is a little bit like, even in India, it's kind of controversial, from Shiva, Krishna. Like on Shiva's side, people think, oh, Shiva is a god. And there is not so much idea that Shiva was a living person at a certain time. Krishna, I think there is a little bit more acceptance that Krishna was a person living at a certain time, even though they are not agreement when it was or where, and even the places where Krishna was, like Mathura and Vrindavan, is not the same according to my teacher. My teacher is Sri Anandamurti. He wrote a book about Shiva, he wrote a book about Krishna, and according to his point of view, the place that today is Mathura, which is supposed to be the Krishna's kingdom, is not the exact place where it was. So all these things may come in the future, that discoveries and things like that, archaeological discoveries, they may find. But in our way of thinking, is that Krishna was a living personality and he lived at a certain time for a certain number of years. So that is our idea. Yeah. Okay, let's see if there are more questions. Okay, what is one way that Bharat was united that we may apply to our lives, nations today? Even today, the world is divided in different countries. Before that the world for them was that area. Okay, so today the planet is small. Before, the planet was big in the sense of the technology we have to travel and to communicate. It made the world very small. So if before the idea was to create the Mahabharata, which is maybe that area of the world, today the idea is to create one planet, all one, because the planet became so connected. And so what can we learn? One thing is that maybe it's not that simple to put it together, okay? And in those days, kind of there was a war, and there was a lot of destruction. Many people died, and in the end, one king was like the older Pandava brother. He became the king, and he was a moralist. Therefore, his reign was like moral, and it was benevolent. Okay. If we transport it to today, different things could happen. Is it going to be a physical war, or is it going to be a psychic war? Is the war going to be with physical weapons, or is the war going to be with psychic weapons? Now, what is a psychic weapon? Psychic weapon is an idea. If I have an idea or a philosophy that is divisive, it's not going to bring union or the great, let's say, planet. If my philosophy is a philosophy that unites, that may bring the whole planet together. So now if we see in the world today, there is a battle of philosophies. There are some people saying, oh, we should keep our wealth for us. Let's keep everybody out. Let's defend what we have. And the other people, they want to bring more, let's divide our wealth. There is enough wealth for everyone, for the whole planet. Nobody has to be hungry. And we have to have a proper relationship with the plants, with the animals, with the planet itself. So that's a war going on. So which side we are? Which side our mind is going? So different situations you can bring in perspective. And you have to think that human beings now are more developed. Maybe Krishna, we can say 3,500 years ago, there was a certain degree of development, but it was a time of warriors. And so all the people, the characters were great warriors. They had various weapons and a lot of mental force. So that's the way they fought. Now today, 3,500 years ago, is it going to be like a physical fight out, or is it going to be a little bit different? Because now we are more mental than we were before. So that's one way of seeing things. And let me see. And how we apply it to our lives. Well, we still have the same chakras. We still have the same propensities. That fight is going on. Which one we are going to encourage, or we are going to make stronger? Do we let the propensities dominate? Do we hold them? Do we control them? Do we win against them? So, okay, so that's a little bit extra, something to think about. Okay, we went for an hour. I covered what I wanted to cover today. Krishnat, you want to say something, take over, or I don't see any more questions at this point. Okay. I don't hear anything from the organizer side. And we'll stop here. There is one more class. I hope you can attend. And there should be some recording. And if you can also look for the Bhagavad Gita, take a look, and we can talk more next time. I think that's all I have for today. And let me see. So, okay, thank you. All the best. And I'm gonna close here.